All right, welcome to DBN's Diplomats coverage of Season 9 Nexus main event. We're almost there. We have the man of the hour, the Darcy Morris. The guy plays everything. If there's a game of diplomacy that's going on in Timbuktu, he's going to be there. Okay, no matter what the game is, he is going to be there, and he's going to bring his charm and his personality. But Darcy, you've been taking a lot of criticism in this game, so I hope you're ready for to explain where you're at. You're not hiding from us. You've come on the show. We're going to talk about it all. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I just spent the night with Bradley Grace, who many of the viewers will know had quite opinionated, had quite big opinions about this game. So I got a bit of a talk there, a little bit of prep there, but I'm ready for the big occasion, I guess.
Okay.
Bradley Grace has an opinion?
So, first of all, just address the fact that we've heard two things, right? You got into the finals on a poker game. Is that right?
Yeah. I didn't really have a chance going into the final turn. I had found out that that the person that I needed not to try and throw was going to be throwing to England, which was Josh Ostrowski, who did a great job commentating this top board. But I think his greed in having a sliver of a chance of winning himself led him to offering a poker game, which I was never going to turn down.
All right. The other thing, people have hinted that maybe you and Cedric were engaging in a lot of pregame negotiations or pregame discussions. Is that true?
So the pre-game discussions that me and Cedric had were actually in the waiting room for the Paris selection method. So we had about as much pre-gaming with each other as there would have been with anyone else. It was with all eyes to see. Everyone was completely 100 million% aware of any conversations that were going on between me and Cedric. So I don't really call that too much pre-gaming, more just getting to know the other players, and Cedric just so happened to be the one speaking to me the most.
All right. You are picking six. You are the 6th seed. You're picking 6. You chose between Germany and Turkey. Why Germany?
I think it's simply based off the fact that there's currently, well, at least at the time, I'm not sure as much now, but there's quite a big Austria, Italy, Russia air meta. And I really didn't want to have to deal with that. Plus the fact that I played Germany. Going into this game, it was actually quite recent that I'd played a top board as Germany at the beginning of the year in person in Australia. So, and I had done quite well in that one. Fell just short of winning that one. So I felt quite confident as Germany. So it was quite an easy pick.
Okay, and this is your first top board in press or extended deadline, right?
Yes, I will state that out of everyone here on this top board, I am the least press-orientated person there by quite a distance. So yeah.
So I find this sort of fascinating. Just a general comment. A lot of the other players I mean, specifically Tim, Nikita, and Philip said that you didn't communicate a lot with them, that they would send a lot of press to you, but you had really short replies. Is that because of the format, or is that because of your personality? Because in virtual games, you seem to be a magnetic personality, right? You're talking, you put a finger in every pie, but it didn't seem like that was happening in this game.
Yeah, press is just so foreign to me as a diplomacy player. It is a format I'm still grasping. And I knew going into this game that it was going to be something that people would talk about. It would be mentioned that I don't send as much press. I'm a much I when I'm doing press, it is much more taking in what other people are saying and giving out my answer. Whereas when I'm speaking, I don't really know when's best to stop. I don't have the let's go back and delete half of what I just said and just make it more succinct sort of thing. So yeah, I won't deny I sent less press. It was much shorter than a lot of other players gave to me. Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting when I think Philip was saying he would write a message and you'd respond yes. I was like,
Yeah.
I expect short press, but that's so short.
No. So actually, the funny thing is, me and Cedric did a really good workaround on this that didn't really happen with other players. Well, actually, didn't happen with anyone, and that helped us and our negotiations quite a lot because he realized I was more a speaking virtual face-to-face type player. So doing the calls probably really helped him figure out what my thought process was. And yeah, I probably should have sort of let that sort of be the norm for how I tried to do negotiations. But I just didn't. So that is a way that Cedric definitely got an edge in terms of figuring out where my head was at in the game.
Okay. Let's start with your interactions with the other players. Rob said he didn't interact with you much. We haven't talked to Cedric. Your Western relations. Talk to us about what you wanted to do, what your thought process was, who you wanted to ally with. Just put us in your head.
Okay. So I talked to Cedric first because he messaged everyone like in the first minute of the game going live. I talked to Cedric first, and he actually proposed opening to English Channel, and I opened to Burgundy, and just going all in on France. I was aware, based off of how the pre-game chats had gone, that Cedric was definitely viewing. I think he definitely viewed me from the outset as someone that he would be more willing to work with. But I wasn't 100% willing to commit to the Burgundy thing. I obviously said, yeah, I'll make a move for Burgundy, but I wasn't phased if I'd get bounced or not. And then the real thing that decided that I couldn't work with Rob was my negotiations around Burgundy. I wanted to bounce desperately. I texted him it was probably the most press I did with Rob was this Spring 01 turn.
You wanted to bounce in Burgundy.
I was desperate for no one to be in Burgundy, and I was really, really trying to hammer that Burgundy I didn't want anyone there. I was worried that they were both two really good players, and if there looked like the opportunity for there to be an easy EF against me, there would be one. And I really didn't want Burgundy, and France really pushed super hard for Burgundy. And it just really threw me off compared to the more calm and easygoing conversations I was having with England. The desperation I was quite obviously showing to France around the Burgundy conversation really, really put us on the back foot for the rest of the game. I didn't tell anyone about the Holland move because I only thought about that like just before I went to, because my time zone meant that I wasn't there when the deadline was happening, the final like 5 hours. So I changed my move to that just before the deadline, just before I went to bed, so that I could potentially have play on Belgium if I so desired. So I'd have 2 on it in case the EF was going to go after me. So it was sort of like an insurance sort of policy, because I was just really worried about Belgium and Burgundy in terms of EF cooperation. So that's what happened there. I had no clue Tyrolia was happening either.
Philip said it was never even discussed. Was it discussed?
What, the Tyrolia?
Correct.
I'd asked him at the beginning, like at the very start around Tyrolia in my initial conversation with him, just asking if Tyrolia was a plan, and he said no, not at the moment. That very obviously changed. We didn't talk about it changing. It was more just like a passing thing. Is Tyrolia happening? So I wasn't. He did not flag that to me in another conversation. So the combination of desperately trying to get Burgundy not to happen and Tyrolia happening, plus the fact I'd gone to Holland, made me pretty reliant on Cedric as an alliance partner.
Talk to me about your diplomatic relations with Russia and Tim. How were they?
From my perspective, they were quite nice. They were quite fun. I watched his interview recently, and he did not feel the same about me at the beginning. He was quite concerned about me. But I find it a bit phony when people just go straight into saying, yes, we're going to ride or die. This is the alliance. It's going to stick through the entire game. It's Spring 01. Everyone's moves are pretty self-explanatory. I didn't want to commit to that, but there was no world where I was going to bounce him out of Sweden. He actually brought that up because I said that in my interview pre-game. So I was a little bit puzzled when he said in his interview that he was very worried about where my head was at, when it was quite clear I had thought that Sweden was always going to be his. But we were fine. There was no antagonism. My antagonism was basically just directed at Rob based off of how much he wanted Burgundy. Yeah, that was my Spring 01.
He didn't want it that much. He didn't support himself in there.
No. So actually, he had said he was very much willing to support himself into Burgundy. He wanted Burgundy. He didn't tell me if he would end up supporting, but he made it clear that was very much on the cards. So I didn't want to waste Munich moving to Burgundy just for Marseille to be supporting Paris there. So yeah.
Hey, Keith, I'm wondering your thoughts, because I generally don't, as either France or Germany, like a bounce in Burgundy, because
it gives England
I
Belgium, sure.
Well, you can bounce it from Marseille, but it does take away some play on Belgium. But I get it.
It puts England in the driver's seat, so you really have to trust England what they want to do. So unless Paris goes to Picardy or Kiel goes to Holland, you really don't have a say, which Darcy actually does have a say here, which would make sense if you actually wanted to bounce Burgundy to go to Holland here.
He does have a say.
It's kind of weird. But
so would you say this was the moment, Darcy, that the EG gets solidified after this set of orders?
Yeah, I think Rob was on the back foot in terms of getting England on side from the beginning. Even though there wasn't too much pre-game conversation, I think it was quite obvious to the entire board that Burgundy was the entire talk of the West, and how much there was conversation around that. It made it pretty obvious that it was a fight for England's affections, and I think Cedric saw me less as a threat to his game overall than Rob, who is a more established press player.
Were you at all worried about losing Munich here?
I was petrified. Considering Tyrolia hadn't been notified about Tyrolia and how much my negotiations with France were just instantly downhill, I would not have been surprised if I had lost Munich at all, which was also why I wanted Russia on side, and I was desperate. I was also ringing the bells around need an RT to stop the AI, like that sort of thing. Although to Philip's credit, Philip did tell me multiple times that Munich was not going to be lost. So I actually did tend to trust Philip around his feelings towards Germany at this point in the game, at least.
How did Cedric react to the fleet in Holland?
Cedric wasn't too fussed. I think Cedric knew that I was stressed around Burgundy. I think it was probably obvious from France's negotiations with England as well. I think Cedric, the Burgundy conversation really made it quite clear and obvious that it would have taken monumental trust between me and France to get us to work together in fall. So I don't think he was too fussed around Holland. It had also been discussed between me, Russia, and England, not all in a group chat together, but just separately, that no one really wanted any fuss over Scandinavia, or at least that was sort of my gathering from it. Considering I'd put an army in Denmark, they both felt, I think, pretty safe in terms of Scandinavia.
So we have heard from Rob in particular, but also Tim, how tough Cedric has been in negotiations over builds. And I've given you, and Keith has given you a lot of critique. Me more in 1901, Keith I think in 04, but maybe 03, about your failure to build a fleet in 01. Talk to us about the thought process. Was that Cedric demanding it? Did you offer it?
No, so I didn't offer the armies. That was Cedric's pitch to me, was the 2 armies. But I feel like most of the negotiation was based around me getting to see Fleet Liverpool come down. He wanted to put a fleet in London and a fleet in Edinburgh. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong. But Fleet London was something that needed to be worked towards a bit. And frankly, I knew I felt comfortable with Russia, and I didn't feel comfortable with France at all. That building 2 armies in a game that goes to 1910, when I'm feeling comfortable in the north, I felt like I'd have another chance to build a fleet eventually, and I needed more to see Fleet Liverpool come down than anything else. So yeah, he was a little bit demanding, but I think it went both ways in terms of this builds.
So you have a real issue with unit displacement now, because you have a fleet in Holland, but England's an ally. You have an army in Denmark, and so you try to essentially engineer a way out of this problem, but you get all the right sort of EG, if not EGR, moves. Do you think it's an EGRT kind of right now, or you're working with him, or was there ever an explicit discussion made about that?
So my units were awfully displaced, but as I actually had read post game in the finals thing, I think it was quite quite accurate, actually, that diplomatically, I was in quite a good position. Russia felt no threat for me. England obviously didn't feel a threat for me building Fleet Liverpool. So I actually wasn't too worried about my unit placement because diplomatically I was in a decent position. It did feel like an EGRT. Like Tim made it quite clear that he wasn't going to join the air. He did not feel comfortable with the pre-game history of Austria, Italy. So I was quite confident that it was RT, and he didn't really try to hide that in conversations with EG. So yeah, my units were displaced, but diplomatically I was quite comfortable.
This starts the Berlin army's exodus too.
The 2-year journey to Piedmont.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, literally everyone knew I was moving to Silesia. I was telling Russia that it was pro-him. I was telling Austria it was pro-Austria. And I was telling Italy, hey, is there a potential I could get a dot sometime in the future with this army? And everyone seemed pretty receptive to the idea of a German army wandering around. So I didn't really mind it. Yeah.
I assume you suspected that Denmark would not make it to Belgium.
No, we knew it was a guess between Picardy and Burgundy, and we just got it wrong. It was meant to get into Belgium. It didn't. Rob, like everyone saw, Rob's tactics were quite on point, and his guesses were quite on point. So yeah, it was meant to get into Belgium. I was eyeing up Belgium as sort of my next centre, because I knew that Cedric would make progress on France quicker. So I was trying to get that build as quickly as I could. But yeah, no, I mean, Rob just played well.
Just goes to show that diplomacy beats tactics, right? You survived.
So yeah, you don't take Burgundy here, which is unfortunate. Cedric fully commits to the EG, but it is what it is, right? Rob made a lot of good guesses.
Yeah, I mean, so this entire time, me and Tim are constantly talking about when he should stab for Norway, and I get Belgium, because me and him were both very confident and comfortable with what Cedric's movesets were going to be for 5 years of this game. It was pretty clear what Cedric was doing to both of us, doing moveset-wise for both of us. So it was about finding the right timing. At least on my end, that's what it was. I mean, we'll get into that later. But we were talking this entire time about when would be the right moment to stab. So yeah, I was keeping an open mind about all of this disengagement.
So that sort of dispels one thing that everyone sort of talked about, which I think you're going to have to address in this interview.
Yeah.
Which is, from an early stage, I think Tim said it, you had said, I'm just, playing for DB&I points. I don't have to win. Did you say that? And if you said it, did you mean it?
So it's a bit complicated. I knew that a lot of people cared more about winning this board. I cared about it a lot. I obviously wanted to try and win, but I knew that was a pitch that would appeal to someone like Tim, who had just been burnt quite badly in the Olympus board. Because again, I lived with Turkey in that game, Cora. So I heard a bit of the diplomacy that was going on between those two and how it was heightened. So I knew that Tim cared quite a lot about how this game went. Cedric told me he wanted to win this game so that he could sort of be taken a little bit more seriously in sort of when he's giving opinions and that sort of stuff. So I knew both of them really cared about the game, and both of them also knew I was a virtual face-to-face and a face-to-face player. So I sort of just played into I'm the press newbie, I'm just happy to be here sort of thing. Like I do in all my games, I go for what my highest center count best result is. Sometimes I don't believe that's winning. I know me and Ed have had a few disagreements on that in games, and whether that's a valid approach.
I don't think it's invalid. It's just not my approach.
Yeah, but I sort of had a similar vibe in this game.
Yeah. And I think it's critical for other players to understand players' different motivations. Like it's okay that Darcy and I have different motivations, or Keith and I have different motivations. One of the ways to do well in diplomacy is to understand what your other players value in the game. All right. So, would you say your true ally here is Cedric, or is it Tim? I kind of heard both.
From my perspective, it's both. But I knew that I didn't really have a stab on Tim. So if I was to progress further in the game outside of the EGR, it had to be with Tim. So my more serious talks about stabbing the other partner was with Tim on Cedric.
So I have a question here. Tim talked about it in his interview. And Keith, I know I'm jumping all over, so if you have stuff, get it in. But Tim had said that he thought the army was going to Bohemia to help him into Vienna, or to help you into Vienna, to get you a build, maybe another fleet. But it doesn't. As we go to the spring 1903, it goes to Tyrolia. What's happening?
I'm recognizing Tim has literally no valid enemies. After the stab in the AI, Tim is absolutely dominating every single diplomatic conversation in the East. And I'm starting to feel it hadn't been a consolidated feeling, but I'm starting to think Tim's main ally in this game is not going to come out of the West. It's going to be in the East, and he's just going to use anyone in the West he can to sort of break his game open more. And I realized Vienna's not holdable for me, and all it does is help him kill whoever he wants to kill quicker. So I moved to Tyrolia. This is what really hurts me about Richard, is I moved to Tyrolia, and every move here until I actually make a move on Marseille, I'm doing for Richard's benefit, and I'm talking through everything with Richard about how do we get you into a more stable position to block the RT a little bit, because I did not trust Tim in working with me over someone in the East, and Richard just sort of didn't trust or go through with anything I said and kept on going in the East with people that had stabbed him over and over and over.
Of course, here, I think everyone on the show, but I'm assuming in the game, guessed that this was going to Piedmont. I assume you just told everybody that was happening as well.
I mean, yeah, I think most people were pretty confident it would go to Piedmont. I mean, I had conversations about what could it do in Tyrolia, that sort of thing. But when it got to Piedmont, I used the Piedmont conversation to sort of mask the fact that Italy really trusted me around Venice and never felt like I was going to make a move with Austria. I was telling Austria every single turn since I moved to Bohemia, I can help you towards Venice. I can get you something here to crack the IT or the wintergreen or something, because Philip kept on going up and down in terms of having an ally, not having an ally, looking like he's in a really good position. So I was really trying to work with Richard here to get him something. But Piedmont eventually, when I realized Richard wasn't going to go through with anything and he was more just a dead man walking, just became anti-French.
I think Keith here has strongly advocated for this was the time for you to take Belgium and
Yes.
him to take Norway.
Yes.
I think you're going to have to address that now.
Yes, I need to address this. Okay. I was genuine. I was so genuine about taking Belgium here. Even though I really did not trust France to work with me long term, I was pretty confident. Yeah, this puts him down to 3. We can roll from here. So when I go to Tim and I'm like, "Hey Tim, I'm pretty sure France has talked to you. I've talked to you. How about we do the stab now?" And his response is, "I'm not sure. Let me think about it for the night." And I'm like, this is a big move for me to make. And Tim's sitting here going, let me think on it. Like, I'm not really trusting that Tim is being genuine here. And also, it's not like I love the player in France at the moment in terms of trustworthiness. Maybe I don't go through with this. So the next day he comes to me and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." Now, in the meantime, I'm thinking, well, he said, give me a day, but what if he's just going to talk with Cedric to figure out what's the tactics to go against it? And I actually didn't really talk to Cedric too much. I think we had our normal chat, but like, I don't think he was more suspicious about anything. It was quite the average chat that we'd been having. It's like a 15-minute video, like phone call on Discord. And there was like nothing out of the ordinary. I'd had my chat, but it hadn't really changed my thinking. It all was based around Tim's caution. So in the end, I don't go through with it. I don't tell France I'm not going through with it so that I can get Burgundy. And I tell Tim, yeah, I don't feel like doing it because did not trust him as far as I could throw him.
Usually when you offer someone a pretty decent deal, they should jump on it. If they're apprehensive about it, you're like, well, I have a good ally already, and France isn't a good ally. And obviously
and the other thought was, how much do I trust not to then be the Germany that gets squeezed by France, Russia, considering France and me was still not in a good relationship space, and Russia was doing very well by themselves. Why should they bother sort of trying to move around me to get their centers? So I didn't trust that either. So it was a combination of that, but mainly Tim's let me think on it was really did not like.
I wasn't really down. Oh, you're muted, Ed. I wasn't
go ahead.
I wasn't really down on you this year for not stabbing because I thought it made more sense. I think the next opportunity I have, I thought was a good chance. But
well, I think that there is a legitimate concern. Your last point there that okay, Rob helps you into Belgium, and Tim takes Norway. England goes down 2. But I think Tim said that you suggested to him that was just going to make an EF, that Cedric would turn everything around against you, and you might not be in a better position because you can't, And I think that's not an invalid concern. The problem is if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? That's the problem.
Yeah, no. I recognize this was my last moment to get a stab on Cedric. anything after here, I felt would have had to have been agreed with him in terms of what I get. From like France or whatever. Obviously, until towards the end when me and Tim are fighting and there's Russian centers. But yeah.
Yeah. Cedric builds I guess it's a rebuild. Is it a rebuild? Whatever it is. He gets a fleet.
Yeah,
He's plus
rebuild.
Rebuild.
Great move to Gascony here. Was that Cedric's idea?
I think that was Cedric's idea. Yeah. I thought that Burgundy was going to get cut, but it didn't. I can't remember exactly what the tactics thought was here, but we decided fuck it and go to Gascony. So I don't know if we're allowed to swear. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean.
Okay. Well, I mean, the real headline is you're not growing. You didn't stab. You want to grow. Sweden comes into play. I assume that's the reason for the move.
So the growing is part of it, but also Richard's dead. Philip is acting strangely contently with how, and I'm like, Tim's about to go up to like 9 or 10 here. If things go his way, I'm then going to be stuck with an England that is going to be in Gascony and sort of has every French centre he wants before I get anything. If I don't want to then just be ER'd or just Russia come for me next, then I sort of have to do something. So I sort of felt like I literally had no choice. So the talk around, I noticed in Tim's interview there was a lot of talk around Silesia. I had not wanted him to move Galicia to Bohemia, because I had heard from Philip that he is moving to Tyrolia, and I also wasn't comfortable with how things with the army build in Warsaw. I just really, really didn't like the army Warsaw build that he made. So then it goes to Baltic Sea, and that was quite interesting conversation trying to get it. He quite really wanted to bounce me. I think he knew in the heart of hearts that he should have bounced me.
He said it.
It was. I was quite surprised that he didn't. I actually didn't tell. He wasn't sure if I'd told Cedric or not. I actually hadn't. I'd actually explicitly told him, I'm not going to tell you where the fleet goes, just so that it can't be leaked where it does, and you don't have to get pulled into a corner about it. So Cedric actually didn't know where I didn't tell anyone where that fleet was going. But I think Cedric smelled an opportunity and knew he had to go to North Sea because I think the move.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. There was no other place for it to go, and it helps him.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the future, I would say Munich probably should have went to Silesia. If you're going to commit to Russia, Burgundy, if it has a retreat, it's no big deal. I mean, you could even retreat to Belgium by accident. So.
Yeah. No, I look back on that now, and I'm like, why am I worried about losing Burgundy here? It would have taken quite a move set for me to lose Burgundy here.
Well, everything's getting tapped. Yeah, Gascony and Marseille are both getting tapped.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's just a poor tactical read by me. But also, I sort of wasn't sure if Tim was gonna move to Silesia. We hadn't talked. I hadn't gotten a good enough read on if he was going to go there. I thought I was going to get bounced in Baltic, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But Silesia, I wasn't too sure about.
Even better.
But yeah,
If you're fighting Russia, you want to be in Silesia.
Well, I think this really hurts your game. Not going to Baltic. That's
and
fine.
then we moved
Just the move set, because you have to move back as we go to the fall, right?
to
Munich.
4.
This is where the problem is. You got
I
a
have
Munich
used
problem. You got a Berlin problem. You know, yeah, you get Sweden,
And-
but
Yeah.
I don't know if you broke up. Did you hear this issue of having to retreat from the Western offensive kind of cripples you a bit for your game?
Yeah, it also fact that cripples me from the get anything too soon from it. I think Cedric was definitely looking at it and being like, this is my time to eat, sort of thing. And there wasn't really anything I could say to Cedric for that not to be the case. So yeah, I mean, it did cripple my game. But also I was right. If I didn't take Sweden here, Tim's going up 2. I know that he's building to go against me on the line here. So I felt like I made the right move to go on Tim, and he's still building 1. So I probably would have had to have moved back a bit anyway. But you know, the real thing that hurt here was Tim's messages to me at this point was, I'm never fighting England unless you turn around completely and trust me. I'm just not gonna touch England. England's gonna run away with it. What are you doing, sort of thing. And I was sort of in the mindset of like, I just didn't really vibe with Tim's sort of pitch to me, being like, I'm not going to fight England anymore for the rest of the game. I'll help them into Scandinavia sort of vibe. So my diplomatic recuperation with Tim was pretty non-existent. I think it was the first time in this game outside of Fleet Anchor, which he managed to get fine in the end. It was sort of the first time that he'd been stabbed in the game, and it just sort of wasn't the right pitch, I think, for me at least. And it just sort of felt like this was an inevitable thing that was going to happen in the game, is I have to sit and defend against Russia on the line whilst the East delves into an RT or a wintergreen. And I felt like that's just what happened. Like, I really did try to get Richard not to just collapse. I recognized I needed him to not have it be so straightforward in terms of just demolishing one power in the East. And I just couldn't do that.
But okay, we also gave you a lot of guff for not building a fleet here, but I'm taking your explanation of Tim's fighting me. Why am I building a fleet?
Yeah, I mean, Tim's telling me, he's just going to help England into dots in the north, and his ability to lie was virtually non-existent in terms of getting me to think he's not just going to go straight towards the line in some capacity, no matter what I build. So I was,
and for as good as Cedric's long-term prospects are good, Russia is the board leader at this point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and again, if I didn't take Sweden, he's building in St. Petersburg, and he has Norway whenever he wants. Like, if I'm not moving to Baltic there, like, Tim gets Norway, keeps Sweden, and builds to protect his northern position, and it doesn't matter that France is dead to Cedric. Like, Cedric can't afford to stab me there, and because otherwise Tim eats more dots, and then Tim just sort of runs away with it. So it's like my move on Tim sort of hamstrung his ability to move forward too much. I think it would have been the same if I'd gone after Cedric. I sort of had to pick and choose, I think.
Well, it must have been disappointing to hear from Tim how good a relationship Cedric had with Tim. As good as you think your relationship was, Cedric was playing Tim.
Oh yeah, no. Cedric was by far, out of everyone on this board, I think it's consensus. Outside of maybe Philip, people liked Philip. Actually, no, that's a lie. Turkey and Philip did not get along at all. Cedric was by far and away considered the friendliest person and the best person on the board to talk to and negotiate with, by quite a mile.
Strange, because he's a complete asshole in real life.
All right.
I mean, I'm about to stay with him at Weasel Moot, so it's gonna be, we've been talking for the last 4 months, and he stabs me in this game, so it's gonna be an interesting first night.
And to hear that Cedric was essentially behind the retreat to Skagerrak, which ultimately is the winning move for Cedric.
Oh yeah, no. That really, I did not know that at all. That hurt to hear. That I mean, it makes sense. But it's just like, oof.
Did he insist you build an army? Cedric insist you build the army, or were you just like, hey, I'm building an army, and it wasn't even talked about?
No. I wanted to build a fleet here. So I could deal with Skagerrak. I wanted Skagerrak gone so badly. It's not funny how badly
Cedric should have wanted it gone too.
And he was that was Cedric with his iron fist on the builds that time. Yeah, I wanted to build a fleet here pretty badly.
This was time to build a fleet. This is the time to get back with Russia if you could, but.
Well, even not. Even if he couldn't get back with Russia, it's a fleet for defensive purposes to get rid of Skagerrak. But yeah, I mean, but I understand. But this is not spring 1905. But you're obviously going away from Cedric. You've given us the reasons why you've chosen. But really, the Skagerrak retreat sets it all up for disaster. I assume you've arranged.
No, the Skagerrak retreat didn't. It wasn't the Skagerrak retreat. It was
it's the next
me
move.
And Cedric. Oh, well, it was me being lazy. Cedric probably knew and was thinking about it. It was me being lazy and just doing another Denmark bounce. That was it.
What should
that was like if I don't Denmark bounce,
you're talking about this.
Again, and Tim's. Yeah.
What should you have done?
That's seeing anything from France, because we were eyeing up Marseille for me for so long. I should have just bounced, self-bounced Sweden and Baltic. That's what I was thinking. That was the other thing I was thinking. Either that, or I think we were also thinking he goes to Denmark, I go to Norway. But, I mean, considering what I heard from Tim's interview, and probably what I'll hear from Cedric's, is I think Skagerrak was always bound to end in disaster for me.
Yeah. Didn't look like Tim was getting on the same page at this point either, even though this would have been a good place for you guys to Sweden
Nah, me
support
and Tim are
Skagerrak
gone.
into Norway, and then
Me,
Baltic.
me and Tim's relationship was gone. The only relationships I had a chance with were Italy and Turkey and England at this point.
Keith, I still don't think we have a straight answer from Tim as to whether or not he told Cedric he was supporting him to Denmark or not.
He said he did.
He said, okay.
He said he did, and he said that he didn't tell Darcy because he was protecting Cedric. But then we heard from Nikita that more than likely he was protecting Turkey, so he didn't have to worry about Turkey being like, "Oh, you're working with England," because Turkey wanted St. Petersburg to be built. So they were both Cedric and Tim were hiding that this was not malicious support, so they could keep the Janissaries.
Yeah. Anyways, a complete disaster. You lose Marseille, but I assumed you thought you were losing Marseille.
Oh yeah, no. I knew I was losing Marseille. Yeah. I mean, as much as Tim, not Tim, as much as Cedric sort of butted me up in a sort of way around, oh no, he might support whole Paris. Like I was pretty confident that I was not keeping Marseille. Me and Rob still weren't really speaking to each other. Yeah, me and Rob were so cooked from the outset. Like there was no relationship there. There was never any chance after the ICO1. Really, actually, there was the Belgium thing, which Tim then poo-pooed. Yeah.
Well, you still had hope after this, even with this, and I assume Cedric's telling you it was unintended and all the rest of it. You'll get it back eventually. Did Cedric tell you something like that?
Yeah. No, obviously, yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, it makes me feel a little bit better about what I viewed as an egregious mistake on my behalf. But we'll get to that in a second, probably.
I think that's coming up pretty quickly here. So here you go to Tyrolia. Tell me about that. Just an attempt to, maybe you should say it.
This is EGI stop RT pretty please conversations. This was me coming in to help Philip hold, and it did not make Tim happy. Yeah, no, this was to help hold Trieste.
Which is pretty noble that you're doing that, even though you've got your own Tim problems. But this is.
I mean, at this point, I trust my tactics enough that I can hold against Tim's 3 armies up there. Like I wasn't too worried about them. I knew I had a bit of maneuverability. And yeah, I mean, Tim's sort of the antagonist of my game after I had to disband Piedmont sort of thing. But it seems like Tim was the antagonist, pushed on and spurred on by Cedric. But I mean, I didn't know about that, so not much I could really act on.
Tell me about Denmark. Did you try to negotiate back for it?
Oh yeah, no. I was meant to get Denmark back, I think, for the years until I get bounced out of it. I think
it's 07. I think he's supposed to get it back in 07. 06, they got to get rid of the Skagerrak fleet. But
I can't see what year it is because there's the reporting logo.
But he can. He could have put Denmark in the Skagerrak.
He'd been telling me ever since I lost Denmark. I was told by Cedric, "You'll get Denmark back this year," and then it was a no. You have to wait. We can do it next year, and it was like sort of that sort of thing. But I was pretty much like, I want Denmark back, and then I was playing the card of I'm basically being a janissary for you this entire game. You're quite clearly the one dominating the board as long as I hold the line against Tim. I know Nikita is stabby McStab face and wants to win at all costs and won't really roll over for Tim. I mean, that's at least what I thought. You can afford to give me Denmark back here. It's not a big loss for you. But he just kept on not doing it.
Yeah, no, it just keeps getting better for Cedric. At this point, though, I'm assuming your play is I'd like to be in second.
So at this point, my thought is, second is sort of the best I can sort of do. But I was aware that there were worlds where if I could get Cedric committed,
Yeah, I think he's got internet problems, Keith.
A little bit.
To sort of the Mediterranean area or far up north, and I could consolidate a decent chunk. And
Hey, Darcy, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
sort of potentially being, but
Okay, I think we got the lagging worked out. Kind of missed most of the last answer, but I think we got the gist of it.
yeah.
We go in the winter. You're trying to get the highest position possible. And I think this is the apex of your hope.
Yeah.
Like you might be hitting St. Petersburg. You're in Bohemia. Tell us the plan.
So as far as I was aware, not knowing anyone else's perspectives, this year is the biggest mistake I made in the game. From a perspective without knowing Cedric and Tim's conversations, I knew that I would be getting St. Petersburg. Well, okay, this is what I thought. I thought St. Petersburg's mine, guaranteed. Denmark, this is finally the turn I get Denmark. I'm in Marseille. I'm not in Marseille. Cedric's getting Marseille. He's happy. And then on top of all that, I get Turkey come talk to me and say, hey, if I can get you Vienna, will you go for the win? And I had helped try and bring Italy and Turkey together earlier in the game to try and get them to work their relationship so that they can work together. And they both seemed relatively thankful for my efforts, at least. So I thought I'd had a few decent conversations with Turkey, so I felt like there was a chance they were telling me the truth. I also realized that Tim has finally come to me at this point and is like, I'm leaving you alone. I can't, this is not helping my chance at winning this game. Go defend against Cedric. So I know that I can get the jump in the Vienna sort of area as well. So I'm like, this is my chance. I go +3 here. Cedric isn't building because I'm taking Denmark and he's getting Marseille, but he's out of Burgundy. His fleets are all positioned towards the Med. There is a sliver of a chance here. If I can get to 8, I can work with Turkey. Something can happen. So anyway.
Why don't you take Denmark now?
Why don't I take Denmark now? Because I think the agreement was to take it in fall, which looking on it now, after hearing what Cedric had been doing with Tim, seems like there was never any hope for me, which makes me feel a little bit better about my mistakes I did in discussions around fall, where I'm talking to Cedric. I basically have the three centers. In my mind, I have them. I have St. Petersburg, I have Vienna, and I have Denmark. All agreed with Turkey and England. I'm going to go up 3. Well, those were all there. I hadn't told England the Vienna deal. I then go and talk to England. This is my mistake. I go and talk to England. I shouldn't have talked to him about this. I go to talk to him and say, I've been offered Vienna. I have the chance to go +3 here. I promise you it's only to head with 3 armies. I'll build 3 armies, I told him. Because at this point I was like, what's the point in me building a fleet? I'm not really going to be the way I win is by defending the centers that I have in sort of with the armies I have. So I build 3 armies with agreement from Cedric, and I just push to defend, consolidate my position, and move forward with with Turkey. But I tell Cedric, hoping that this would be the case, and Cedric is not a fan. He was umming and ahhing and saying, I don't really want you to go up 3. Just go up 2. Blah blah blah. Like that sort of thing. Really wasn't a fan of me going 3. So I was like, okay, cool. I won't go 3. I'll just get.
Well, you weren't guaranteed Vienna. You weren't guaranteed Vienna.
So no. So the deal wasn't with just Turkey. It was with just Turkey, but he had made. He said he had convinced Russia to do a move set which would get me Vienna. So as far as I'm aware, and Turkey hadn't really lied. Turkey had lied to England, apparently, and he'd lied a bunch to Italy, but he hadn't really lied to me. And going into this turn, I was like, well, surely I can trust Cedric, right? He's been my ally for the last 3 months. He won't do this when he's still quite obviously in the dominant winning position, right? And then I was like, I can trust Turkey, right? And then it just goes completely pear-shaped. And I get bounced out of Denmark. I don't get St. Petersburg. I lose Sweden. And the RT had lied to me. And that's when I was like, and then Cedric has the audacity to tell me in the following, as soon as the turn goes through, I'm sorry. I thought you were stabbing me. I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry. I can still get you top 3 here. And at that point, I just said, honestly, this game's a joke. I don't really care. I want to sit on my 4 centers, and that's it. Let me live on my 4 centers. You're going to win the game. I'm not going to throw to Russia. I'm not going to move forward on the line towards Russia or Turkey. Just let me sit on my home 4 and wait for this dumb, annoying game to end. And from that point on, I didn't care about the game. I didn't care about anything other than living on as many centers as I could out of the 4 that I had. Cedric was dead to me. Russia and Turkey, I had no relationship with anymore. I mean, my relationship with Russia was already dead, basically. France was dying. Italy, I felt bad for Italy. We were both just sitting there saying, yeah, we're so done with this game. We just don't care anymore. And yeah, for the rest of it, I was like, screw Cedric. Screw the RT that just lies to everyone. It's like Romeo and Juliet, except like killing everyone except themselves, sort of thing. Bonnie and Clyde. It's like Bonnie and Clyde, stabbing, killing everyone. I was just so done.
But then Cedric needs you because he doesn't know about the throw yet.
Oh, that's true. But honestly, I didn't care. I just wanted to live on as many as I could, and I knew that Russia was still a little bit more BSing. Like there was still more BS from Russia in terms of what he could give me and keep me on. And I know how stalemate line works. I know the fact that he was offering me Kiel was a completely unholdable center for me, and I know that I could keep Munich and Berlin with England when England makes this move to Holland, which by the way was another stab. He told me he wasn't going to move to Holland. He said he'd be fine to leave me on my 4. So then this happens, and I'm like, cool, whatever, bro. I'm over this. I don't care. Let me live on as many as you can let me live on, I guess. And yeah, I mean, Tim makes pitches to get me. There were quite a few pitches made. You're right. Shouldn't just gloss over them. There were quite a few pitches made by both England and Russia. But again, frankly, since Cedric's stab, and my loss of the 3 center gain that I thought, because that was when I didn't take the Belgium stab earlier in the game. I was like, I have to wait for the right moment to go up and give myself a sliver of a chance here. And I thought that time that I could go up 3 was my chance. And then
now it's worse.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the hell Venice supporting Piedmont to Tyrolia was. That was a despicable retreat to Munich. That was quite painful, that one. But I mean, I was spinning lies to Tim at this point to try and keep myself Berlin, which actually works because Tim's so desperate for a chance at winning the game that he sort of needs me for at least a little bit to push over the line a bit.
You go back to your old friend Cedric, though.
I don't go back to him. I just go to I go to the dots and I say, hold me there. They were both now willing to just hold me in the centers after I take Munich back here. They were both like, yeah, just they both just held me, I think, for a little bit before. Actually, no, Tim tries to go for it. Go for one of them, I think. But they were both pretty nonplussed by this point around Berlin, Munich just being mine. And the whole weird stuff around the draw, and people genuinely were accusing me of vetoing the draw. I think that was the thing that hurt me the most. After the point where I didn't care anymore, it's like, you seriously, after this game, you expect that I'm the one vetoing?
But you did say that you had missed it when
I missed it.
France died.
I missed it after France died. Yeah, no, that was my bad. That one. But
Well,
I also
it was one time.
But they latched onto that. Cedric latched onto that because he wanted a solo.
I think Cedric and Russia Turkey were all not drawing, because I think Russia Turkey was still trying to throw the win quietly, and Cedric wanted his solo quietly.
Did Cedric come to you and want to throw of Munich or Berlin or anything?
No. He was quite clear. It was quite clear what my stance was to Cedric. The buddy relationship was gone and dead and buried, and he was still saying sorry, I think, for quite a while. But yeah, no, Cedric was quite aware of the standing.
And
yeah,
you finished in 5th place.
Yeah, I can see how people thought I was throwing to Cedric. I wasn't. I had a really bad relationship with France and then Russia afterwards. I got stuck between the two people that probably had the best chance at winning the game, and my position was never good enough to really dictate anything. In terms of like being able to balance both of them.
I mean, ultimately, if you wanted to live, you had to help Cedric.
Yeah, and again, like I said, that towards somewhere in the middle of this conversation, I play every game to maximize my center count, and this maximizes my center count. I'm not going to throw to either of the two people that at various points in the games hurt my chances. Like,
well, I mean, Russia's only chance was for you to essentially be down to 0 or 1. Cedric was offering you 2.
yeah, no, I mean, Tim was trying to BS that he could keep me alive in Berlin and Kiel. But that was laughable. Cedric had a genuine deal. Tim's was a deal of desperation that I just did not believe for a second.
The worst thing is throwing to someone and it not working, and you're eliminated.
Yeah, that would have been awful. But no, I was never gonna eliminate myself in this game. As much as I wanted to after the stab, in terms of just not having to even put moves in for this game. If you thought I did little press during the game when I actually had centers, yeah, it was diabolical how little press I did. Because this was also towards the end of this game, I was at various tournaments and going around Australia before I left for a little bit. So I was actually doing fun things like winning a tournament for 2 rounds and almost winning in the final round of a face-to-face. And then I was like, oh, yeah, now I have Tim asking if I can move to Kiel and give him Munich and he'll give me Kiel and Berlin. It's like I was going to social events and having a nice drink, and then Tim's sitting there, and I'm just like over it.
As Frank Sinatra said, regrets, I've had a few.
Yeah.
What is your biggest regret in this game?
My biggest regret, from only my perspective, is still telling Cedric about the 3 that I could get.
Yep.
That was my biggest regret. I don't regret anything I did around France. And I don't regret moving on Sweden.
Do you regret?
Do you regret not stabbing in 03?
No, I don't regret stabbing because I didn't trust Rob and I didn't trust Tim when Tim made the let me think about it. Literally my only regret in this game is when I talked about the going up 3 with Cedric. That was my regret. Just that.
In 10 seasons, 12 seasons, 9 of Nexus and 3 of Olympus, an Australian has never won. Do you think that'll happen? That'll continue to happen?
Our press scene in Australia, in terms of players that play press, is very small. I can see King Red, who you guys know, he plays a bit of press. If he does decently, I mean, Jason plays press, but I don't think he's ever going to win a top board on it. King Red would be my only bet for someone that might win a press board, but I'd give that a few years still.
We're working on
it. Cora, your good friend Cora, he said he was never playing another press game after Olympus season 3, and I think you said the same thing, but I don't think you meant it.
Oh, no. I'll play competitive diplomacy no matter what format it is. Unless I'll only play competitive classical. I don't like the variants. I'm not going to play competitive variant play. But press, I will subject myself to. Spoiler alert for those that are in my Olympus games, I'm already dead in both of them. So, and I'm not too fussed about not making it to the next round of this Olympus thing, but no, I'll play Nexus and Olympus every season that it's on. Maybe I'll offer a poker game victory to someone else. Actually, I will put this on record. Europe, I would not have thrown to you if you had won that poker game. there was no world where
He's gonna
that
max
game
out.
was going to end in Europe winning. I'm sorry, Europe, you were not going to win.
Okay, final thoughts from you, Darcy. Anything that we didn't cover that you want to say? Any speech that you want to read, like Tim?
Comments about us? I know you had a lot of words to say when we were in Denver. How about now?
Look, Cedric, you're a great guy to talk to, but I don't think I don't think I can trust you for quite a while. 4 months of conversation to end in a stab like that, which then accountability was sort of not there too much. Yeah,
Let me give you a tip, Darcy. Get your money for the room in Chicago up front.
Yeah, I'll have to put my foot down on that. I'll play the pity card. You stabbed me in the top board. You give me you give me the bed and you can have the floor, sort of thing. But yeah, no, Cedric, it hurts. Rob, let's just bounce Burgundy next time, bro, please. Philip, I hope you and Nikita have made up. Nikita, I hope you and Philip have made up. Richard, please listen to my offers next time. I really did try and help you. And Tim, next time maybe don't sleep on it, please. But yeah, I mean, it was fun for the first 7 years, and then pain and suffering caused by Cedric and the RT happened.
Having said that, was Cedric a worthy winner?
Oh, 1,000,000% deserved it completely and outright. No one else should win that game. It would have been criminal if I had gotten those 3 centers and I'd somehow then gone on to win. That I don't think there would be a least deserving winner of a press top board final ever in the history. So yeah, I mean, my final center count probably reflects how much I deserved to win and get out of that game. But no, Cedric very much deserved it.
Not the biggest comeback, but a good comeback.
All right, Darcy. Thank you for answering all the questions. I don't know what university you're at, but I might donate to their internet. Maybe raise student fees a little bit. This is horrible echo, but good night and thank you very much. It's late.
Yeah, it's 10 past 1 in the morning.
Wow.
But yes, thank you for having me.